express your racism in public and with the consummate?
No, not at all. Not in the slightest. What I think it would send a signal to the Australian population and Australian public is that the Parliament actually values the most fundamental, one of the most fundamental individual rights, which is freedom of speech. The High Court itself has determined through the implied rights of political communication that at the very foundation of our democratic structure is the idea that we can speak freely. Now it's decided that we can speak freely on political matters, but our argument is that the right to freedom of speech is about more than just politics. It's about the right to be able to speak your mind without threat of legal sanction. If Parliament was to repeal Section 18C, as we're arguing to do, it would be a very powerful statement in defence of this most fundamental liberty. Now, if Parliament at the same time also says, oh yes, well, we're going to make it free for racists to say whatever they want, of course, that's going to send a terrible message, but I think it's incumbent on Parliament as it goes forward with reforming or repealing Section 18C to point out that this is a statement in defence of Australians' most fundamental liberties.
Gentlemen, if the committee took the view that we didn't want to see a case like the Queensland University Technology case happen again, what is the best way of ensuring that that happens?
The only way of ensuring that that doesn't happen under Section 18C is to repeal Section 18C. The threshold that's set by Section 18C is so low as to catch the kind of conduct that we've seen in QUT. And I think it's very unlikely that, the reason why the QUT case has been used as often as it has in the course of the public debate around Section 18C is because it provides a set of circumstances that is caught by Section 18C and is very unlikely to be caught by many of the other laws that I think are appropriate at both the state and the Commonwealth level. And I think that the QUT case and the facts of that case show exactly the kind of conduct that we think is captured by Section 18C, where the state has no role in regulating that kind of conduct. I think that people should be free to be able to engage in a debate about university policies that apply to them. And I think that in the case of the QUT case, we've got the kind of language that was being used was completely reasonable. I think it's reasonable that people express themselves in the way that, for instance, Alex Wood did in that case. So, to my mind, the only way of solving this situation and allowing for two things. One, to allow for the kind of conduct that we saw in that case go on in the course of a free public debate, and two, to make sure that conduct that reaches a much higher threshold of intimidating of threats is caught by other existing laws, is to repeal Section 18C.
Other people have suggested that we should remove the words offend and insult, or perhaps remove them and replace them with other words. Do you have a view on those sorts of proposals? One has had particular popularities. Vilify should replace some of the words in 18C.
My very strong recommendation to the committee would be to avoid that sort of change. And the reason why I think you should avoid that is because removing the words offend and insult and replacing effectively those words with the word vilify does almost nothing to the law. At best, it might be replacing offend and insult with a synonym. I mean, if you go to the Macquarie Dictionary, for instance, insult is used as a synonym for vilify. So at best, it's replacing words with other words that have the same meaning. At worst, it adds in a level of uncertainty around the law, because at the moment we've got 20 years of jurisprudence that tell us what the limits are of Section 18C. If you put a new word in there, you potentially give rise to a level of uncertainty that I'd be uncomfortable with. But look, having said that, I think that the reality is that it's very likely that this would be treated in a very similar way to the way that the law is currently treated. And the reason I say that is because judges in many cases talk about the fact that this is an anti-vilification provision. Those are the words that are used, and so to my mind I think it's a distinction without a difference. And if you were to take the concerns that we have put forward to you today of the Australian people seriously, you've got to change the law rather than looking as though you're changing the law without in fact changing it.
So final question, just in summary. If the committee wanted to raise the bar of 18C to capture less conduct but not eliminate it entirely, is removing the words offend and insult and not replacing them. The best way of doing that?
I mean, that sort of compromise solution, I think, would improve the law. It doesn't go anywhere near far enough to solving all of the issues of 18C, but we are in favour of improving laws.
I think freedom of speech is, if not the most fundamental right, because it is how we form a society together. If you don't have freedom of speech, you are unable to create a society that, certainly a democratic society, but you're unable to create the sort of institutions that we require to live in a community together. Freedom of speech should not be treated as just one right among many. It is probably the most important right that we have.
So does the government has any role to play in promoting social cohesion and
Absolutely.
discrimination?
Absolutely, and in fact, one of the reasons why we're in favour of repealing Section 18C and ensuring that everyone is entitled to freedom of speech is to ensure social cohesion. I think it's incredibly important that we're all free to publicly participate in a debate, whether it's around matters of public policy relating to race or anything else. And I think that, frankly, the idea that we promote social cohesion by restricting freedom of speech is deeply misguided.
So does the Racial Discrimination Act or IPA have any role, has it any role in promoting social cohesion in this nation?
No, in fact, I think it detracts from it.